Miss Ritis was not an ordinary person. Oh no, she was quite extraordinary. She had eyes that twinkled like tiny stars on a very dark night, and her mind was always fizzing and whizzing with the most peculiar and brilliant ideas. She lived in a small, crooked house that leaned to one side, as if it were listening to secrets whispered by the wind. Inside this house, amidst piles of books and strange-looking gadgets, Ritti worked on her greatest invention. She wasn't trying to make a faster car or a louder television. Ritti was trying to build a little bit of magic for everyone. For years and years, Ritti tinkered and toiled. She used stardust she collected in a jam jar and moonbeams she caught in a silver net. She added a pinch of kindness, a spoonful of hope, and the sound of a child's laughter. She poured all of this into a sleek silver machine that looked a bit like a laptop. But this was no ordinary laptop. It had tiny glowing stars that swirled across its screen, and a keyboard made of what looked like polished riverstones. She called it the Star Laptop because it held all the magic of a wishing star right inside its shiny case. The day she finished it was a Tuesday. The sun was shining very brightly. Ritti took a deep breath. Her heart was beating like a drum. She opened the Star Laptop. The little stars on the screen danced and spun. She thought very hard about a cup of hot chocolate, the kind with marshmallows floating on top like fluffy white clouds. She typed a lovely cup of hot chocolate, please, onto the stone keys, and then poof! Right there on her workbench, a steaming mug appeared, smelling absolutely delicious. It worked. The magic was real. Ritti knew at once that this was too wonderful to keep to herself. A laptop that could make anything you could imagine was not just a clever toy, it was a key. It was a key that could unlock a door to a completely new world for everybody. A world where no one had to be hungry or cold or sad because they didn't have something they needed. She smiled, a very big smile, a smile so wide it made her cheeks ache. She knew exactly what she had to do next. The world was about to change in the most splendiferous way imaginable. The Star Laptop was wonderfully simple. All you had to do was think of something you wanted, something you truly needed, and type it into the laptop. It could be anything at all. A warm coat for a chilly winter's day, a new football to kick around in the park, a plate of sausages and mashed potatoes for a hungry tummy, a beautiful storybook filled with pictures of dragons and brave knights. You just had to type your wish. And in a blink, there it was. It didn't appear out of thin air in your house. It appeared exactly where you needed it to be, anywhere in the world. Ritti didn't make just one Star Laptop. That would have been selfish. Instead, she used the first laptop to make millions more, one for every single home on the entire planet. One morning, people all over the world woke up to find a beautiful star-covered box on their doorstep. Inside was their very own Star Laptop and a simple note that said, "Wish for what you need, share what you can." At first, people were puzzled. They poked and prodded the strange machines, but soon a little boy in a cold village wished for a warm blanket, and it appeared neatly folded at the end of his bed. The news spread like wildfire in a dry field. Everyone was talking about it. A farmer in a dry land wished for fresh water for his thirsty crops, and a gentle spring began to bubble up from the ground. A lonely old woman wished for a friendly kitten to keep her company, and a tiny ball of fluff with a purr like a little engine appeared on her lap. People wished for new shoes, for medicine to make them feel better, for strong wood to fix their broken fences. It was a time of pure fizzing excitement. Anything was possible. The laptops were very clever. They knew the difference between a need and a greedy want. If someone tried to wish for a mountain of gold all for themselves, the laptop would simply show a picture of a smiling flower. It was a gentle way of saying, that is not what this magic is for. The laptops were for making life better for everyone, not for making one person richer than all the others. They were for filling empty spaces, mending broken things, and making sure every single person had enough to be comfortable, safe, and happy. The age of wanting was over. The age of having had begun. As everyone received exactly what they needed, a most peculiar thing started to happen. People stopped worrying about money. What good was a pocket full of coins or a wallet full of paper notes when you could simply wish for a loaf of bread and have it appear warm and crusty on your kitchen table? Money became a silly, useless thing like a chocolate teapot or a glass hammer. People started to use the old coins for games. skipping them across ponds, and they used the colorful paper notes to make paper aeroplanes and pretty decorations for parties. The banks became quiet places, and then they became something else entirely. With no need to earn money to buy things, people found they had a lot of time. All those hours they used to spend working in offices or factories were suddenly free. At first, it was a little strange. People would wake up and think, what on earth am I going to do all day? But soon they discovered the most wonderful secret of all. They discovered the joy of doing things just for the love of doing them. A man who used to sell shoes now spent his days carving beautiful little wooden animals, not to sell, but to give to the children in his neighborhood. The world became a much more colorful and lively place. People started to learn new things. They learned how to play the guitar, how to paint pictures of the sunset, how to grow the most enormous, prize-winning pumpkins in their gardens. They formed clubs for stargazing, for telling stories, for building fantastic tree houses. Instead of going to a shop if you wanted a cake, you would visit your neighbor who loved to bake. She would whip you up a magnificent cake. Not for money, but because she simply adored the smell of baking and the smile on your face when you took the first bite. This new way of living was called the Great Giving Away. People didn't trade things anymore, they just gave them. A fisherman would catch more fish than he needed and would leave them on the doorsteps of his friends. A woman with a garden full of flowers would make beautiful bouquets for the local hospital. Life was no longer about getting, it was about giving. And the funny thing was, the more people gave, the happier they felt. It was a bubbling, fizzing sort of happiness that filled them up from their toes to the tops of their heads. In this new world, nobody was poor anymore, and because nobody was poor, nobody was jealous of anyone else. It is very hard to be jealous of your friend's new bicycle when you can have one just like it by typing a few words into your star laptop. All the nasty feelings that came from not having enough, the sadness, the anger, the worry, began to melt away like snow in the springtime. Children grew up without ever knowing what it felt like to be hungry. They went to sleep each night in warm, safe beds, their bellies full and their minds full of happy thoughts. People became kinder to each other. When you don't have to compete for a job or worry about paying your bills, you have much more energy to be kind. Neighbors talked to each other over their garden fences. Strangers smiled at each other on the street. People spent more time with their families, playing games, telling stories, and just being together. The world became a quieter, gentler place. The loud, angry noises of the old world were replaced by the sounds of laughter, of music being played in the park, and of people helping each other build wonderful new things. With all their basic needs met, people turned their brilliant minds to bigger things. They worked together to clean the oceans and plant huge new forests. They built amazing observatories to look at the stars and learn the secrets of the universe. They wrote beautiful poems and composed breathtaking music. They had the time to be curious, to be creative, and to be clever. The world wasn't just a place to survive in anymore. It was a magnificent playground, a giant library, and a beautiful work of art that everyone was making together. It was all thanks to one kind woman and her magical idea. And so, people lived happily, not in a fairy tale, once upon a time sort of way, but in a real, everyday sort of way. They were happy because they were free. They were free from the heavy weight of money and the endless worry it brought. They were free to be the best versions of themselves, creative, kind, generous, and full of joy. Ritis's marvelous star laptop hadn't just given them things. It had given them a new way to live. It had given them a world where the most valuable thing you could have was a good idea. And the best thing you could do was share it with a friend.